He dropped off his baby at my door like she was a forgotten Amazon package, and then vanished for 6 months. Now he's back, standing in my kitchen like nothing happened, asking to hold his daughter. I don't even know how to explain what those 6 months felt like. Hell? Maybe. A weird kind of heaven? Also yes. I'm 28, single, and I've never wanted kids. I had a stable job, a tiny apartment, and an obsessive plan to move to Seattle and finally chase the design career I'd buried under practicality and family expectations. But none of that mattered after November 3rd at 2:12 a.m., when someone rang my buzzer and left a screaming, red-faced infant me niece wrapped in a hospital blanket and strapped into a carrier. Attached was a folded note with 5 words written in my brother's unmistakable, all-caps scrawl. Please take care of her. Nothing else. No name. No apology. Not even formula. Just her. I didn't even know he'd been seeing someone seriously, let alone that she was pregnant. Last I heard, he was bouncing from bartending gigs to couchsurfing at random friends' places, chasing some half-baked plan to become a music producer in Austin. He and I hadn't been close since college. He'd always been the screw-up, the golden boy with charm to spare and zero follow-through. And I'd been the fixer, the one who cleaned up his messes. But this wasn't a spilled drink or an overdraft fee. This was a baby, a tiny helpless human who looked up at me with my mother's hazel eyes. Eyes I hadn't seen since her funeral 4 years ago. Her name, I later found out from a nurse at the hospital he ditched her at, was Isla. The first week was a blur of emergency Target runs, late-night Google searches, how to burp a baby, is green poop normal, and tearful breakdowns on my bathroom floor. I hadn't slept through the night in days. I was using up PTO like it grew on trees, trying to juggle bottle feedings with Zoom calls and diaper explosions with email deadlines. But somewhere between the exhaustion and the chaos, something shifted. Isla smiled at me for the first time when she was 5 weeks old. A real smile, gummy and wide, her whole face scrunching up like she was in on a secret. I cried for 2 straight hours after that, holding her like she was my own. Because in a way she was. And then last Friday, I came home from the park and found him standing in my kitchen barefoot, wearing the same ratty Nirvana hoodie he probably hadn't washed in a year. Hey, he said like this was a normal drop-in. I stood frozen in the doorway, Isla still strapped to my chest in the carrier. You have 5 seconds to explain why you're not in jail or dead. He ran a hand through his greasy hair. I know I messed up. But I'm here now. And I want to do right by her. I laughed. Not a polite laugh. A sharp, bitter bark. Do right by her? You left her. You disappeared, Caleb. No texts, no calls. I thought you were dead. He looked down, fidgeting like a scolded teenager. I wasn't ready. I panicked. Her mom Maddie, she left. I didn't know what else to do. I don't know what came over me, but I walked past him, gently unbuckled Isla, and placed her in the crib. Then I turned around and slammed the kitchen drawer so hard he flinched. You don't get to do this, I said, voice shaking. You don't get to vanish and then waltz back in like you're some hero. I want to be her dad, he said, his voice suddenly serious, eyes wet. Well, tough, I snapped. You were her dad. For maybe 4 hours. And then you quit. I didn't. I wish I could say that shut him up. That he hung his head and left, or at least offered some grand, heartfelt apology. But Caleb being Caleb, he just doubled down. She's my daughter, he said. I have rights. And just like that, I felt the world tilt beneath me. I've been raising this little girl. I've been there for every 3 a.m. feed, every diaper rash, every babbled mama. That makes my heart ache and sore at the same time. I've sacrificed sleep, my job, my plans, my entire life. And now he thinks he can just pop back in and claim her like a lost jacket? I called my lawyer the next morning. And here's where things get even messier. 2 days later, I got a call from Maddie. Yeah, Isla's mother. The same Maddie who supposedly left. Turns out she hadn't left voluntarily. Caleb had lied. He told her he'd take Isla for a few days to give her time to rest. She had severe postpartum depression, and they'd been staying at a friend's place while figuring things out. He promised to come back. He never did. She was hospitalized for a breakdown 2 weeks later, and had spent the past 5 months trying to track Isla down. He never told her he left Isla with me. He told her Isla had been taken by Child Protective Services. I couldn't breathe when I heard her voice. She was calm. Too calm. "I've been looking for her," Maddie said. "Please, can I see her?" I didn't know what to say. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to cry. But mostly I wanted to protect Isla. Because here's the thing no one tells you. When you raise a baby, even if you didn't birth her, even if she's not technically yours, you become her person. Her safe place. Her voice when she doesn't have words. And the idea of losing her made me physically ill. But I agreed to meet Maddie at a neutral location, a cafe downtown, during the day, with Isla in my arms and my best friend Carla sitting at the next table just in case. Maddie was nothing like I expected. She was small, pale, and clearly still recovering. But her eyes, those same hazel eyes, locked on Isla like she'd found oxygen after drowning for months. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I never wanted to leave her." I begged him to tell me where she was. He lied. I believed her. And that broke me even more. Because now this wasn't just a story of abandonment. It was a story of manipulation. Of a man who'd failed 2 women and a baby in one swoop. So when people ask if I'm the asshole for keeping Isla, for fighting for full guardianship, for refusing to just hand her over to a man who disappeared and a woman who was kept in the dark, I don't know how to answer. Am I stealing someone's child? Or am I saving her? All I know is this. When Isla cries, it's my name she calls. When she falls, it's my arms she runs to. When she sleeps, it's my heartbeat she trusts. I didn't ask to be her mom. But I became one anyway. Maddie sat across from me, her fingers trembling as she reached for the cup of chamomile tea she hadn't touched since we sat down. Her eyes never left Isla. "I thought she was gone," she said again, like she was still trying to convince herself she wasn't hallucinating. I thought maybe she died and no one wanted to tell me." My chest ached. I had no words. What do you say to someone who thought their baby was dead because the father lied to her face and disappeared? Isla was wriggling in my lap, reaching toward Maddie's necklace with the innocent curiosity of an 8-month-old who had no idea she was at the center of something so messy, so raw, so complicated. Maddie laughed just once, a broken sound that cracked at the edges, and offered her a shy finger. "She's beautiful," she whispered, her voice catching. "She has your nose. I mean Caleb's. But it looks better on her." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I just nodded. "She's been happy," I said slowly. "She eats well. Sleeps mostly. She loves peekaboo and hates sweet potatoes. And she's obsessed with our upstairs neighbor's cat." Maddie's smile faded, and she leaned back. "Do you love her?" The question hit me like a punch. Of course I loved her. But hearing it said out loud made something twist deep in my gut. "Yes," I said. "I do." Maddie closed her eyes. "I'm not here to take her from you." The relief that washed over me was immediate. And then came the suspicion. "Then why are you here?" I asked carefully. She opened her eyes, and this time her expression was clearer. Less grief, more resolve. "I want to be in her life," she said. "Not instead of you. Not above you. But I want her to know who I am. I want to get healthy, go to therapy, get a job, do whatever it takes. I'm not asking for full custody. I know I need to earn that. But I don't want her growing up thinking her mother abandoned her. Because I didn't. I couldn't." The twist I'd expected to feel, that threat, that shift in control, didn't come. Instead, I felt something almost worse, empathy. Because Maddie hadn't been the villain in this story. She'd been another victim. A week later, my lawyer filed for temporary guardianship backed with months of proof. Doctor visits, daycare receipts, letters from friends, photos, statements from neighbors. Caleb didn't take it well. When he got served, he showed up at my door again, this time furious. "So you're really trying to steal her from me?" he shouted. "She's my daughter, and you're making me look like a deadbeat." "You are a deadbeat," I yelled back. "You left your baby at my door in the middle of the night, and didn't even check if she had formula. You lied to her mother and vanished." He sneered. "You just want to play house. You're a sad, lonely woman with no kids of your own and nothing better to do than raise someone else's." That one hurt. I slammed the door in his face before I said something I couldn't take back. But the damage was already done. I cried for hours that night. I held Isla against my chest while she slept, whispering promises into her soft hair that she'd never have to wonder if she was wanted, that no matter what a judge or a court decided, I would fight for her. I would stay. I reached out to Maddie again, and to my surprise, she followed through. She enrolled in a support group for young mothers with postpartum depression. She started working part-time at a bookstore. She even brought me a folder of medical records, therapy notes, and a letter she wrote to Isla. She was trying. And somewhere along the line, I started to believe she deserved a chance. So I did something I never thought I would. I invited Maddie over for dinner. Just her and Isla and me. I cooked spaghetti. Isla smashed half a meatball into her hair. Maddie laughed until she cried. For 2 hours we were just a weird, broken little unit doing our best. Until Caleb showed up. Again. I'd forgotten to lock the front door. Rookie mistake. He barged in like he owned the place, his face already red with fury the moment he saw Maddie holding Isla. "You've got to be kidding me," he said. "Are you two like besties now? What the hell is this?" Maddie stood up immediately, putting Isla back in my arms. "Don't do this, Caleb." "No," he barked. "You don't get to team up with her and freeze me out of my own kid's life." I could feel Isla stiffening in my arms. Her tiny fingers curled around my collarbone, sensing the tension. "You had your chance," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You made your choices. No one's freezing you out, you did that yourself. I'm her father. And I'm the one who's been raising her," I snapped. "When she had RSV and I spent 4 nights in the ER, where were you? When she needed vaccines and midnight cuddles and someone to teach her to hold her own bottle, where were you?" He didn't answer. Just stood there seething. And then Maddie did something that shocked us both. She stepped between us and looked Caleb dead in the eye. "You lied to me. You left me in a hospital not knowing where my baby was. You vanished. And now you're mad that we picked up the pieces without you?" she asked, her voice sharp but steady. "Grow up, Caleb. You don't get to be the victim and the villain." Caleb didn't speak. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard a photo fell off the wall. After that night, things became clearer. I wasn't just raising Isla, I was fighting for her. And for the first time I had backup. Maddie and I started working on a co-parenting plan with my lawyer's help. It wasn't perfect. We disagreed. We fumbled. But we were trying. We took turns for daycare pickup. We started alternating Sunday mornings so Isla would get time with each of us. I even gave Maddie a key to the apartment for emergencies. And slowly, Isla began to light up when she saw Maddie. She knew. Babies know. But Caleb didn't go away. He lawyered up, filed for full custody, claimed I was manipulating the mother, and emotionally kidnapping his daughter. His lawyer sent us a letter full of venom and half-truths. My stomach churned when I read it. Maddie agreed to testify against him. And when the court date came, I walked into that courtroom in a blouse I hadn't worn since college graduation, holding a folder of every receipt, every milestone photo, every doctor visit. I was terrified. But I wasn't alone. Maddie walked in beside me, chin high. Her hand brushed mine once and I knew. No matter what happened, we were in this together. The judge listened. To everything. He asked about Caleb's absence. He asked about Maddie's recovery. He asked me what I wanted. And I told him the truth. I want what's best for Isla. And I think she needs stability. She needs love. She needs people who show up. There was a long silence before the judge spoke. And what he said changed everything. The judge folded his hands, leaned slightly forward, and spoke with the calm gravity of someone who'd seen far too many broken families. "This case is complex," he began. "It involves abandonment, mental health challenges, and informal guardianship. But the core issue is what is in the best interest of the child. That's the court's only concern." Caleb straightened in his chair, smug in his ill-fitting suit. His lawyer looked equally confident, probably convinced they'd poked enough holes in my lack of biological ties to make the case swing in their favor. But then the judge turned to me. "Miss Sutton," he said, "you've demonstrated consistent, stable caregiving over the last 6 months. Medical records, financial support, personal testimony from neighbors and family friends. Everything indicates Isla is thriving under your care." I swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the table until my knuckles went white. He turned next to Maddie. Miss Bennett, you've acknowledged the difficulties you face postpartum, and you've taken meaningful, verifiable steps toward recovery. Your cooperation with the petitioner, he nodded toward me, demonstrates maturity and sincere concern for your child. Maddie gave the faintest nod, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Then the judge looked to Caleb. Mr. Sutton, he said, his tone suddenly cooler. The court has reviewed your absence. 6 months with no contact. No financial support. No documentation of efforts to reclaim or locate your daughter. Your explanation of not being ready does not legally justify abandonment. Caleb shifted in his chair, visibly fuming. The judge continued. This is not a punishment. This is a consequence. A beat of silence fell over the room like a heavy curtain. The court grants temporary primary custody to Miss Sutton, he said, with shared parental visitation rights extended to Miss Bennett under supervision, until a longer-term arrangement can be reviewed. Mr. Sutton, at this time, your request for full custody is denied. You may petition for supervised visitation contingent upon completion of a parenting course, proof of employment, and counseling. Caleb stood up so fast his chair screeched backward. This is bullshit. Mr. Sutton, the judge said sharply, you're welcome to appeal. But this court stands adjourned. The gavel hit. It should have felt like a victory. In some ways it did. But as I sat there still clutching Isla's toy bunny in my lap, all I could feel was exhaustion. Bone-deep, soul-crushing fatigue. And fear. Because even with the judge's ruling, nothing was certain. Custody wasn't forever. Caleb could come back stronger. Richer. More prepared. I'd have to keep proving myself over and over again. Outside the courthouse, Maddie exhaled shakily. We did it, she whispered. I nodded, blinking against the harsh sunlight. I don't think he's done, I said. I don't think we are either, she replied. And that was the truth. The following weeks were strangely quiet. Too quiet. Caleb didn't call. Didn't show up. Didn't text. His lawyer sent a notice confirming he'd enrolled in a court-mandated parenting course, but beyond that, he vanished all over again. And that scared me even more. What was he planning? I couldn't relax. Every time the doorbell rang, my stomach flipped. Every time a strange car pulled up on the street, I peeked through the blinds. I started keeping Isla's diaper bag packed at all times, just in case I had to leave fast. I know it sounds paranoid, but when you've been blindsided once, you learn never to leave your guard down again. Meanwhile, Maddie became a fixture in our lives. It started with once-a-week visits, then twice, then Saturday mornings at the park, and bedtime stories she read softly while Isla curled into her chest. And slowly something I didn't expect began to happen. I started to trust her. I didn't want to. I had every reason not to. But the way she looked at Isla, the way she showed up every single time, there was no faking that. She wasn't perfect. She missed a visit once when she had a panic attack. She still cried sometimes when Isla didn't recognize her right away. But she always came back. And that mattered. One night, after Isla had gone down early and Maddie and I were sharing leftover pizza on my living room floor, she said something I'll never forget. I think you saved her, she said quietly. But I think you saved me too. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just passed her another slice of pizza and muttered, well, I do make a mean diaper rash cream blend. She laughed so hard she choked on the crust. Then came the letter. A thick manila envelope arrived one afternoon with no return address. My name typed neatly in the center. Inside was a letter from Caleb. No apology. No acknowledgement of the court ruling. Just a threat, thinly veiled in legalese. I will never stop fighting for my daughter. I'm building a case and I have new representation. You won't win next time. Attached were printed Instagram post photos of Isla and Maddie and me at the park. Selfies I didn't even know Maddie had been tagged in. Circled. Annotated. Highlighted. Like we were evidence in a trial that hadn't even started yet. I showed it to my lawyer. She frowned. This is intimidation, but technically not illegal. What do we do? I asked. Document everything, she said. And don't stop living your life. That's what he wants to make you afraid. But I was afraid. Not just of Caleb, but of losing everything we built. Everything I'd sacrificed for. Seattle was a distant dream now. My career had taken a backseat to bottles and baby gates. My bank account was thinner than ever. And every night, I lay awake wondering if this was a battle I could keep fighting without breaking. Then one night I broke. Isla had a fever. A scary one. Her cries were hoarse and frantic, and her skin was burning up. I called Maddie in a panic and we rushed her to the ER. It was RSV again. Hours passed. IVs. Monitors. A tiny oxygen mask. And the entire time I sat in a stiff hospital chair with Maddie beside me, both of us holding on to Isla like she might vanish if we let go. When the doctor finally said she was stable, we both cried openly, shamelessly. And something shifted. Not between us, but within me. Because as I looked at Maddie, this woman who had every reason to hate me, or resent me, or fight me, saw someone just as broken and just as in love with this baby as I was. And I realized, maybe we weren't two sides of a custody war. Maybe we were the only ones fighting for Isla instead of for ourselves. 2 months later, we did something no one expected. We filed for joint legal guardianship. My lawyer thought I'd lost my mind. Maddie's therapist warned her it could backfire. But we both agreed. Caleb didn't deserve a tug-of-war. Isla didn't deserve to be pulled apart. We wanted to give her a home. A safe, messy, complicated, beautiful home with 2 moms who loved her more than anything. When the paperwork was finalized, Maddie moved into the spare bedroom. We converted it into a nursery with soft yellow wallpaper and a handmade name sign we painted together. Isla took her first steps right there between the two of us. She said mama again, and this time she meant both of us. It wasn't easy. Nothing about it was. We fought about nap schedules. We disagreed on screen time. Maddie was still in therapy, and I was still juggling freelance gigs from home. Some nights we were too exhausted to speak. But Isla was thriving. And so were we. The last time I saw Caleb was 2 weeks ago. He showed up at the edge of the park, watching from the sidewalk while Isla toddled through the grass between Maddie and me. He didn't try to come closer. Didn't yell. Just watched. I saw the moment she noticed him, her little body froze, head tilted, eyes wide. For a second I panicked. But then she turned away and ran back to me, arms outstretched, laughing. I kissed her forehead and met Caleb's eyes across the park. He nodded once. And then he left. Maybe he realized this wasn't a fight he could win. Or maybe for once did the right thing and walked away. Either way, I don't care. Because Isla is home now. And so am I. Life didn't magically get easier after that. We didn't ride off into some fairytale co-parenting sunset. We still had bad days. Isla still got ear infections and threw tantrums and once flushed Maddie's car keys down the toilet, because toddlers are chaos incarnate. But we built something real, brick by brick, bedtime by bedtime. Eventually people stopped asking, "So what are you two?" and just started saying, "You 3 look happy." Which we were. Not perfect, not polished, but happy. The most surprising thing was how the people around us adapted. My dad, who had initially freaked out when I told him I was taking in my brother's baby, now FaceTimed every Friday night to sing her lullabies with his terrible guitar. Maddie's sister, who had cut contact with her during the postpartum spiral, reached out and slowly re-entered her life. Even my best friend Carla, who once joked I was insane for raising someone else's kid, showed up every week with groceries and wiped spit up off her blazer without complaint. And Isla, she grew. She grew teeth and curls and opinions. She loved blueberries and hated baths. She made friends at daycare and learned to say mine way too early. Her favorite song was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but only if I sang it and Maddie did the hand motions. She had a stuffed giraffe named Potato who went everywhere with her, including the toilet once. We don't talk about that day. Every milestone felt sacred. Her first full sentence, "No nap now, Mama too," made us laugh so hard we cried. Her first birthday was a small backyard celebration. Just us and the people who'd stood by us. We gave her a cake shaped like a sunflower and she destroyed it with both hands like a tiny demolition crew. At night, Maddie and I took turns reading to her. Some nights we both stayed, lying on either side of her in her little toddler bed, telling her stories about dragons and brave girls and stars that never went out. She didn't know yet how broken the beginning of her life had been. And maybe with luck she never would. Maybe all she'd remember was love. 3 months after her second birthday, Caleb sent another letter. This one was short. 3 lines. I'm leaving the state. I won't fight you anymore. I hope one day she'll forgive me. I'm sorry. There was no return address. I didn't show Maddie the letter right away. I wasn't sure if it would help or hurt. But when I finally did, she just nodded quietly. I think that's the best thing he could do, she said. And I agreed. It was over. Not just the legal battle. The waiting. The guessing. The lingering hope that somehow he'd become the man Isla deserved. That chapter closed. By the time Isla turned 3, Maddie and I had found a rhythm that didn't just work, it thrived. We got matching tattoos. A tiny outline of a sun behind our ears, where Isla's chubby little hands always landed when she was sleepy. Maddie got a job as a preschool art teacher. I started taking on bigger design clients again. We hired a babysitter and went on non-date dates to the movies, to plays, to bookstores, just 2 women sharing a life they built around a child. One night I asked her, half joking, "Do you ever think we're doing this all wrong?" She looked at me for a long moment and said, "No, I think we're doing it exactly the way Isla needs." And that was enough. When Isla was 4, she asked the question we both knew would come eventually. Why don't I have a daddy like Nora? I froze. The spoon in my hand hovered above her cereal bowl. Maddie, bless her, knelt beside her instantly. You do have a daddy, she said gently. He just couldn't stay. But you have 2 mommies who love you very much. Isla frowned. But why did he go? I sat down beside her and took her tiny hand. Sometimes grown-ups don't know how to be what a child needs, I said slowly. It's not your fault. And it's not because he didn't love you. He just couldn't be here. So we are. Always. She considered this. Then nodded like it was the most reasonable explanation in the world. Okay. But I still want a puppy. Maddie and I burst out laughing. And eventually we got her a puppy. A rescue mutt named Cupcake who was scared of his own tail, and somehow instantly became Isla's shadow. Years passed. The first time she called Maddie Mommy and me Mama. We both cried so hard Isla looked alarmed and offered us a cookie to make it better. By the time she was 6, she was confidently telling people she had 2 moms and a dog, and that's all I need. We didn't correct her. When she was 8, her class did a project on families, and she proudly drew a picture of the 3 of us holding hands under a rainbow. Caleb wasn't in it. No one was missing. When she was 10, she asked to read the letter Caleb had written. Maddie and I let her. She didn't cry. She didn't say much. But that night, she hugged us both tighter than usual. She was quiet for a few days, then moved on. Like kids do. 'Cause she was okay. More than okay, she was loved, whole, happy. This morning I dropped her off for her first day of high school. She's taller than me now. Fierce and funny and brilliant. She wears combat boots and glitter eyeliner and always forgets her lunch. She wants to be an architect and talks about space like she already owns it. She calls Maddie Mom now and still calls me Mama. Which makes me melt every time. As I watched her disappear through those big glass doors, I felt something I hadn't let myself feel for a long time. Peace. Real quiet anchoring peace. Because I did the impossible. I raised a child I didn't plan for. I fought a battle I never wanted. I gave up a version of my life that seemed safe and simple and got something far messier and more meaningful in return. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. Because love isn't always about biology. Sometimes it's about being the one who stays. The one who answers at 3 a.m. The one who learns how to braid hair from YouTube videos. The one who shows up to every parent-teacher conference and every nightmare and every whispered question. The one who says, I'm here, and means it. So when people ask me now, are you her real mom? I smile and say, I'm the one who raised her. That's real enough for me. And that's all she's ever needed.